Hello everyone, my name is Dymitr, and today, in the quite popular mod for AOH3 called Crusade's Faith, we'll find ourselves in the shoes of the royal dynasties of the young Polish kingdom. We'll attempt to build a vast empire that connects entire seas. But before we start the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it motivates me to make new videos for you. Enjoy watching. So the Polish Duchy on 1st January 963. For many years the territory of Poland was inhabited by various West Slavic tribes, such as the Alsatians, Mazovians, Kuyavans, Pomeranians, and so on. Our story begins with the expulsion of the legendary Prince of the Polands from the Popiel dynasty, Popiel, and the establishment of the new Piast dynasty led by Piast's son Siemowit. Starting from the mid-9th century, Siemowit's expanded the lands of the Polands, subjugating more and more territories. It was a dark time when the sun was a god, werewolves roamed the forests, and the wind carried tales of heroes from generation to generation. And now, 100 years later, in an almost unified Polish duchy, Prince Mieszko I, a distant descendant of the first Piast, comes to power. Inheriting rather extensive lands from his father Siemomysl, Mieszko aims to continue the political unification of the nearby Pomeranian, Prussian, and Baltic tribes, thereby consolidating the young state. When the mist rose over the valleys and the sun barely pierced through the dense tree canopies, the army gathered on the shores of the Varangian Sea. Our forces weren't shining legions, but warriors bonded by blood, and the shared idea to expand the homeland's borders. So, after the young prince's marriage to Dobrava, daughter of the Czech Prince Bolesław I, a raid was launched as a wedding gift against the Prussian tribe in the Ermland region. The military campaign began well. The enemy militia was quickly defeated and the tribal center was looted. This was despite the involvement of another previously unknown Prussian tribe in the war. By the beginning of the new year, the tribes were captured. Expanding access to the Varangian Sea and along with it adopting Christianity and the Latin Rite opened new opportunities for Polish merchants. Goods from Lotharingia, France, Scandinavia, and even distant Britain were imported. The only problem remained the regular raids by the disconnected Prussian population, but that was only a matter of time and assimilation. After forming an alliance with Bavaria, closer to the end of spring the rested army continued its campaign northwards. It was here that we began to consider integrating the captured tribes. Gold was needed, and since almost our entire army consisted of simple fishermen, farmers, and craftsmen, a decision was made to release part of the militia back home. And when dawn bathed the land in new light, they knew that their struggle wasn't just battles on the fields, but an eternal vigil over what was dear to their hearts. So, again at the end of spring, but now in 1974, the conquest of the largest Prussian tribe began. Now all these wars weren't just clashes of swords, but also a battle of spirits. The Poles carried with them the new faith of Christianity, which they themselves had seemingly only recently adopted. As expected, under the constant onslaught of our army, the Prussians had no choice but to submit, and now their legacy would live on only in legends, traditions, and the very soil. Next in line were the Pomeranians, or Pomeranian Balts. It's hard to tell now. However, since they were in defensive agreements with Hungary, the prince decided that the best strategic decision would be to attack the Hungarians together with our Bavarian allies. So, at the end of the summer of 979, it happened. The Hungarians were notoriously known as excellent archers and horsemen, so given that they still instilled fear throughout Europe, we tried to cross the mountain and join our ally. Alas, during the mountain crossing, we ran into a huge horde of nomads. Miraculously, with God's help, we won the slaughter, and now, when a 30,000 strong Bavarian reinforcement joined us, the lands that once belonged to the Slavs of Great Moravia welcomed the liberators with delight. Thus, after demonstratively humiliating Pomeranian's main ally, they wisely decided to join our state without a fight. Therefore, in 20 years of Mieszko I's rule, the pagan duchy of the Polands was transformed into a large Polish kingdom. Over the next 10 years, Polish people gradually settled in territories from the Varangian Sea to the Carpathians. Inspired by their king, they worked in fields, forges, and workshops. Monasteries were built, and foreigners began to appear at court. Unfortunately, not everyone was ready to accept this reality, and so, in the spring of 991, the newly acquired territories saw uprisings, first by the Hungarians and then by ordinary peasants dissatisfied with the temporary tax increases needed for assimilation. In early April, not living to see the new millennium, the founder of the Polish kingdom Mieszko I passed away. His son Casimir I became the heir. He in turn appointed advisors at court and continued his father's integration policy, suppressing the rebellions of insurgent tribes with a firm hand. Integration turned out to be more challenging than anticipated, manifested not only in the refusal to accept Polish culture, but also in the reluctance of the Poles themselves to embrace Christianity. The situation was such that, although the kingdom was officially Catholic, in reality more than half of the settlements continued to preserve pagan traditions. Adding fuel to the fire was the fact that in the south, the Hungarians professed Tengrism, a Turkic nomadic religion. We needed to stay afloat. And so, another 10 years passed, and the situation stabilized. Thanks to missionaries from East France, Bohemia, and Bavaria, the majority converted to Catholicism. A special tax was also introduced for those who still remained faithful to their heresy. Revenues improved again, the army was replenished with Polonized Prussians, and the expansion continued. Suddenly, the angered Kievans began raids on border settlements. Apparently, our recent capture of the belts provoked them. Here, we didn't know what we were dealing with because, according to rumors, the Kievan Principality was no less in size than our kingdom. Therefore, sacrificing some lands, our army retreated inland and waited for reinforcements. No, it wasn't they who were plundering our lands, but we theirs, and the gold obtained was successfully spent on spreading Christian missions. Met with success, the campaigns continued endlessly. Money gradually ran out while expenses due to the maintenance of new lands increased. Allies realized that Casimir was simply exploiting them because the war was no longer against pagans, but against fellow Christians, just Orthodox ones. Who knows where the further rule of the Mad Casimir would have led if he hadn't died on 13 February 1035. The next king was Mieszko II. History is cyclical, isn't it? Once again, the heir had to clean up all that the father, dissatisfied with constant wars, had left behind. Replacing the old advisors with new ones, the course was taken to once again strengthen the state. And as a hereditary tradition, what kind of king would Mieszko II be if he didn't wage war against the Balts? So, by the mid-11th century, the Polish kingdom represented a truly serious threat, a sort of Charlemagne's empire in Eastern Europe. Possessing numerous resources, access to the sea, and vast territories connecting the civilized West with the barbaric East, Poland managed to consolidate, and it seemed it was now poised for a long period of prosperity.